This is Duke University.
Hello, everybody. Thank you all for making it in through the cold today. Welcome to AppNexus. My name's Alex Gutler. I am a Duke 05 and Fuqua alum. And I actually work here at AppNexus, so welcome to our lovely home. I hope we've been kind to you so far. Well, thank you. If you're not familiar with AppNexus, we're a technology company that powers internet advertising. And if that is at all interesting to you, you can come talk to me after. And I want to introduce my fellow cohorts up here who've helped plan this event. Megan and Sarah, they can tell you about themselves right now.
I'm Sarah. I graduated from Trinity in 2013. When I was an undergrad, I participated in the Duke Startup Challenge and have been kind of tracking ever since with DukeGEN.
I'm Megan Drake. I'm Fuqua class 2011, and while I was at Duke, I helped to run the Duke Startup Challenge. I was most recently at Credit Suisse in the Tech and Media Investment Banking group. I've since left, and I'm looking to transition. And then I'd like to introduce Howie, who basically runs entrepreneurship, all things entrepreneurship at Duke, and he's going to give us an overview of what is going on in entrepreneurship at Duke.
Thanks, Megan. And let's give them a hand. They're volunteers, and they put these events on all throughout the year. It's really great to work with them. Okay, so before I begin, how many of you have heard of DukeGEN and have been to a DukeGEN event before? Show your hands. Awesome. So I think we've got about half of you, a little over half of you. So I'm going to run through some slides for those of you who have not been to DukeGEN before to give you a sense of what we're about. And just to introduce myself properly, so I'm Howie Rhee. I work at Duke. I work out of the business school, where I'm the managing director for the Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation. And we also have an initiative called the Duke Innovation and Entrepreneurship Initiative. I spend 50% of my time there. And so as part of that, I help to run DukeGEN, the Duke Global Entrepreneurship Network. So the question that we were facing back in 2008 was this one: how do you connect Dukies interested in startups? And the problem manifested itself because students would come up to us all the time and say, hey, I'm interested in such and such type of startup. Who can I get connected to in the Duke alumni network that works at such and such type of startup? And the answer is that we just kind of didn't know. We just kind of looked at our list of business cards that we had maybe met over the last 6 months, or people that we could think of, and it just wasn't a very efficient way for the Duke network to get connected. And so we created the Duke Global Entrepreneurship Network, which we refer to as DukeGEN. And we started with a mantra of creating productive connections. So I hope that if there's one thing you take away from tonight, it's that you kind of meet other people here, that you be friendly if other people walk up to you and interact with you. After the presentations, we're actually going to have a little bit more networking time here, and we're going to go out to a bar afterwards for those of you that want to join us. So DukeGEN is all about productive connections, and we started off as a LinkedIn group. So back in 2008, we said, is there anybody out there in the Duke network that wants to opt in around entrepreneurship? And so you can barely see it up there, but in that black area in the middle top, we now have 6,700 members. So this makes us the largest university-based entrepreneurship group on LinkedIn, and it's actually the third largest official Duke University group. Thank you, thank you. And so from 2008 to now, we grew by 6,000. And so what can you do with that? So on LinkedIn, you can ask questions. And so here's a question from a Duke alum named Chandra, who's based in Boston, where she was just kind of trying to get advice about a domain name. And there were 24 people from the Duke community that offered advice. And if you scroll down a little bit, you can see that some of the comments were actually pretty lengthy. So that was great. And after we started doing these virtual things, we said, what can we do in person? So we said, let's create a networking event on the same night in multiple cities, and let's just throw it out there to see if any Duke alums will volunteer to host an entrepreneurship networking event in their city. We didn't have a budget, and we just kind of went with it. And since 2009, we've hosted over 200 events. We've had over 5,000 Dukies RSVP'd for our events, and we've been in all sorts of cities. And in fact, this event tonight is part of our 17th round of DukeGEN networking events. So I know this is really hard to read, but this week we're in Atlanta, Chicago, Denver, Honolulu, we're looking for volunteers to man our Honolulu event. LA, Miami, Moscow, New Jersey, New York, Pittsburgh, Portland, Research Triangle in North Carolina, San Francisco, San Diego, Sydney, and Washington, D.C. And again, it's the same thing as when we started in 2009. These are volunteers, Duke alumni volunteers, and there's no budget. So it's just great. We already have over 700 people RSVP'd for these events collectively. It's going to be a great week. And so DukeGen continued on, and we decided to answer some of the most commonly asked questions. So who are the Duke alumni that are investors? We put up a webpage with about 200 investors that are Duke alums. What are the role models or success stories of Duke entrepreneurs? So we have about 50 profiles of Duke alums, including Melissa and Doug, Mint.com, and Zico. These are 3 companies that were started by Duke alums. And then what gets us to tonight is that a Duke alum named Jim Scheinman said, hey, these events and these resources are great. It'd be really great, though, if we could have Duke entrepreneurs pitch to Duke angel investors. So that's what we did in 2010 in San Francisco. Ryan Spoon, who's one of our panelists tonight, was nice enough to donate his space, Dogpatch Labs, which is where Instagram was started. And these 8 Duke startups pitched to these 4 investors. So from left to right, Ryan Spoon, who, like I said, is at Dogpatch. He's now running all digital properties at ESPN, including their apps, Apple TV, their website. Josh Felser, he's a double Dukie. He sold one company for $300 million, one for $60 million, and he's a really active angel investor with about 55 investments in startups over the past few years. Aaron Patzer, he's a Duke alum who started Mint.com. He sold that to Intuit for $170 million. And Jim Scheinman, who came up with the idea, he's been a part of 3 $1 billion companies. And so we invited Duke alums in the Bay Area. So this is about 70 Duke alums that came to that event. And it was such a great event, we said, let's do it again in New York City. So in October of 2010, these Duke startups pitched to these Duke angel investors in front of this Duke crowd at Dogpatch Labs near Union Square. And so fast forward to this past June, where we've continued to do these twice a year. So this is our 9th DukeGEN Startup Showcase that I'm showing you here. This is from Google's office in San Francisco. This is an actual view from that office overlooking the Bay Bridge, where these Duke startups pitched to these Duke angel investors. And I won't go through all of them, but some really great people here. And the winning team was actually this team called Final Card, which just launched. So they got into Techstars Boulder, and I'm going to show you the video, except the video doesn't want to play. Well, you'll have to see it on your own. It's a great video. Final Card, I'm really excited about what they're doing. They got 20,000 signups on their first day. This, again, it was just a couple weeks ago. It's a fantastic idea. So part of my point in saying that is that this isn't theoretical. This isn't just about, going through the academic exercise of, hey, can we help startups, give pitches. We actually are trying to help startups, make connections here and actually try to get momentum with their startups. So there are a lot of ways to get involved. I'm not going to go through all these. These are listed on the back cover of your program. But there are many ways to get involved, and we welcome talking to any of you here in the audience today. It's always great to talk to Duke alumni and Fuqua alumni as well. Just a couple more updates here, and then we're going to get to the main part of the program. So we have a program called Startup Connect, and my colleague Marie-Angela, where are you? Raise your hand. They're right there, over here. She runs Startup Connect. So Startup Connect is many things. One is it's a resume book with 400 Duke student resumes from undergrad and grad. There's about 100 computer science and electrical engineers in there, for those of you that are looking for technical talent. We take that resume book and we blast it out to 300 Duke startups. If you did not receive it, let us know and we'll make sure that you receive it this coming summer. And you can be in an internship, or you can try to start a company on your own. And we have programming in New York City, San Francisco, Durham, and Miami. If you have not known of our programming in New York City, it's because last year was the first time we did it in New York City. We welcome all of you to participate and join us for a summer of activities. And there's also a networking fair that is part of Startup Connect. So for those of you who are part of startups and want to hire Duke students, you're welcome to come back. The date, which is, I'm sorry, is not listed here, is February 19th. It's the day after the Duke-Carolina game, the Duke-Carolina basketball game. And last year we had 600 students at the networking fair. We expect that there will probably be more that will RSVP this year, and this is just a great event. So with that, I'm done with my kind of overview of stuff that's going on. There's so much more that's going on. I can't cover it all, but I just want to give you a little sliver as to what's going on campus. So we're going to transition now into tonight's event, and I'm going to ask Sarah and Megan to come up now. They're going to be emceeing this part of the event. And what I want to say before I turn it over to them, and before we invite the panelists to come up, in fact, panelists, if you don't mind, why don't you start coming up right now? That'd be great. Thank you. Is that just to expand on some of the successes that this very event, this DukeGEN Startup Showcase has had. We had Katie Finnegan pitch a few years ago. She raised $5.5 million for her startup, Huckster. We had Catherine Minshew pitch right as she was launching the Daily Muse. This is a great New York City startup story here. We had Coverhound win one of our events, and we had Gettable win another one of our events. So again, just showing that this isn't a purely academic exercise. This is really meant to be helping the startups that are here tonight and that we get the privilege of working with. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sarah and Adam, who will now take you through the rest of the event.
So we have an awesome group of judges tonight, and we'd actually like them all to introduce themselves. So if you could say what your name is, when you graduated from Duke, and what you're working on, or a little bit about your background.
My name is Jeff Cantor. I graduated in 1989. My background is as an operator, a founder, and an investor in marketing and media-related companies. So I founded a business called Brand Connections in 2002 and sold it in 2008 to a private equity firm. And since then, I've been building a portfolio of other marketing-related businesses. I've also been involved in investing in those, but also as a founder as well.
Hi, I'm Nicholas Aldestani. I'm from San Francisco. I am class of 2004 and enjoying being here immensely. I'm a mentor capitalist. I get involved with companies around the Series A funding stage, typically work with them before, about 3 to 6 months before their Series A, and then live with them and work with them for the next 2 to 3 years afterwards. And basically, my career came from working with Oracle when it was 500 people, building a relationship between Oracle and PeopleSoft, and then jumping right from there, because Oracle had become 10,000 people, it was too many, had to get back in the startup world, started a company, sold it to Sun Microsystems, and basically been mentoring companies ever since and investing in them.
My name's Todd Petrie. I'm graduated from Duke in 1989. I co-founded Milestone Venture Partners. I live and work in New York City. Milestone invests in early stage software and data businesses. We have a specialty in digital health businesses, so software and data businesses that solve problems in the healthcare ecosystem. I've been doing that about 15 years.
Hi, my name is Steve Brotman. I graduated in 1990. Started my career as an entrepreneur. Was one of the first wave entrepreneurs in the dot-com era in the mid-90s. Founded a company called Ad1, and we helped newspapers put classified ads online. We sold that to Hearst, and a couple years later, and started one of the first micro-stage VC firms in New York called Silicon Alley Venture Partners. We've been doing that for about 15 years. And then recently, I joined up with the Pritzker family to assist their activities in venture and help them expand nationwide. And as part of that, I've launched Alpha Venture Partners, which is a growth and expansion stage fund.
Got another one back here. I'm Jonathan Drillings. I graduated in '04 from Pratt. My background is both on the venture side and sometime on the startup side as well. I'm with Comcast Ventures, where we are the venture capital firm associated with Comcast NBC Universal. I'm based here in New York. We invest really broadly across the media and technology landscape, everything from e-commerce and digital media through communications equipment and enterprise software. I tend to focus on platforms that help drive engagement throughout the customer lifecycle, leveraging data and communication channels. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Thomas Lehrman. I graduated from Duke in 1995. I co-founded a business in the late 90s, a company called Gerson Lehrman Group, and more recently, been involved in a number of ventures here in the New York community as a sort of mentor, advisor, and right now really focused entirely on investing in early stage and growth stage businesses here, particularly with a focus on kind of network and marketplace businesses, and do some work also in the kind of SaaS B2B software area. Also passionate about educational entrepreneurship, helped to start the first charter school in Brooklyn, and so that's something I enjoy doing.
Hi, I'm Ryan Spoon. Previously was doing early stage tech investing, and I've since moved from San Francisco to Connecticut, where I lead product and design digitally for ESPN, which includes applications that you could watch the Duke game on your cell phone right now, or follow the score. And thrilled to be here, done this several times. It's a blast, and Howie and team does a fantastic job.
The score is 9-16 Duke, by the way. My name is Matt Witheiler. I'm a venture capitalist at Flybridge Capital Partners. We're an early stage venture fund based here in the city. I'm Trinity 03 and started a company and did that, and then worked at a big company before going to business school. So that's my quick background.
I'm Brian McGinnis, Duke 02. I was the founder and CEO of a consumer photo startup called Viewfinder. We sold at the end of last year to Square, and I'm now working on another one.
Great, thanks guys. Thank you so much for coming tonight. You guys are a big reason why this is such a successful evening. Just a couple notes about the judges. Rachel Chung was supposed to be here tonight. Unfortunately, she had to pull out last minute. And then hopefully Lawrence Lenahan will be joining at some point this evening as well. Okay, so let's get kicked off here. And so just a quick review. We're going to have 6 teams presenting tonight. Each team is going to have 5 minutes to present their companies, and the judges will have 1 question to ask each team. And then also at the end, after the teams have presented, the audience will also have a chance to determine who their favorite team is as well.
Unfortunately, Tatiana could not make it tonight. She was supposed to be presenting first, so we're going to skip to Proximity Insight, which will be our first team tonight.
Thank you. Hello, everyone at DukeGEN. My name's Steve Orell. I'm a current Fuqua School of Business student. I graduate next year, and I am one of the co-founders of Proximity Insight. Let's go. So what is Proximity Insight? Well, we are the first product that ties Apple iBeacon proximity technology to CRM through Salesforce. And the reason we've developed this product is we want to allow brands to engage with their customers in a meaningful one-to-one way using locational context and using customer profiling that they've got in their CRM. This space it's a really new space, and it's really broad. So, it's the start of tying people into the Internet of Things. It's got big ramifications, and I think what I really want everyone to get out of our presentation tonight is, that we are focusing specifically on the luxury segment, but this applies to so many different aspects of life. This is about making your life seamless. This is about making things better, and I want sort of to reinforce how many different ways that can happen. So I think I'll warm up by showing you a customer testimonial video.
I'm Esther Fieldglass. I'm the founder of EF Medispa and Petit Bazoo. Proximity Insight have created this amazing technology which is led by the customer's needs. With the new iBeacon technology, this is great for us because EF Medispa is literally 1 door away. So I can check if I've got any Petit Bazoo customers actually in store. If they're there and we know what they like, which we will do because of the technology that we now have. through this technology. It'll show us what they bought previously. We'll know who served them. We'll know what their favourite items are. The partnership between Novastone and Proximity Insight is what actually brings these two pieces of technology together. So now you have the wonderful VIP Petit Bazou app and the iBeacon. So we can maintain a relationship with our customers, whether they're in store or nearby. We can help them with all their shopping needs. And that's really what we're about, helping people to shop.
Okay, so that was great. I want to cover off what we saw there. And the first part you might have seen is clienteling. Now, this is something that many of the world's leading luxury brands are doing right now. It's about giving access to customer profile, giving shop assistants access to customer profile information while they're in store and letting them use that to guide the customer shopping experience. What we're able to do is make that happen in real time. So we're able to tell a brand when an important customer has come in. So using this example, imagine your coach. Imagine you've got an important customer who's come in from Beijing, perhaps. Ordinarily, your customer service assistants wouldn't know who they are. Because of our technology, they can greet them by name. They can welcome them in their language of preference if that's applicable. They can know that that customer welcomes customer assistant. And they are also able to use previous purchases and sort of online data to guide the shopping experience. So this is a technology that's already in use in these brands, and we're basically making that real time. But that doesn't only apply to luxury retail. So another great use case is hotels. And in this example, this is another really cool time we've got. We've brought wearables in. So what you can actually do through this technology is be alerted when an important guest has arrived. You can know that, okay, so in this example, it's, hey, Lisa's arrived. You might know that she's arrived on a plane from Australia, and you know that she's going to want to be checked in quickly. You can have follow-up actions in this clienteling. So you can know, for instance, that you have to arrange for a customer pickup. And the best part about this as well is through this technology, Lisa doesn't even need to check in. Her phone can do all that work for her. We're going to alert the hotel that that customer's arrived, and that person's going to be checked in. That's going to make the whole experience more seamless and better. And so the last experience I sort of want to talk through is we're analysing a big box retailer. So this is the example of Target. We know it's hard to navigate around these kind of stores. They're big stores. Using this technology, you can select what sort of things you want to see, and you can use wayfinding to map your way around that store. And it's easy, and the best part about this is we let brands understand their customers better. They're able to profile their customers. All of this data basically can be used by the brand to enhance the customer experience. We're really about making that customer experience better through better understanding of the customer using this technology. Okay. Okay, that was fast.
Oh, we're going to take one question.
What's your go-to-market strategy, not only to acquire the luxury brands, but also to help them acquire customers to download your app to make functionality work?
So we didn't quite cover this, but we're sort of app agnostic. Our product really is three parts. We've got iOS and Android SDKs, which sit in the back of any existing retailer's app. Then we've got the reporting and clienteling layer, which is all built on top of Salesforce. And then we've got a Heroku middleware layer that handles all the messaging. So for us, the key customers that we're sort of as part of our strategy are ones with big Salesforce profiling instances already and who have apps with good penetration. So the heart of that is really, that's why we're targeting luxury retail. We know we've got those things already. We just join the dots.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, so we're going to invite our next team up. We have Rukkus.
Thanks, Howie, for putting this together, and it's great to be among such distinguished alumni and so many old friends. I get the privilege today to tell you guys about Rukkus, my company. So Rukkus, what is Rukkus? Who starts the Rukkus? How does the Rukkus work? Rukkus is a mobile-driven ticketing marketplace. What we do is we make it easy for you from your iPhone, your Android app, to buy tickets to concert, sports, and theater events. The way that we do that is by being very uncompromising about your customer experience. We create a very seamless process from start to finish where you discover events that are coming up through music, through media. You find your tickets with very advanced seating charts and seat views. So we create a really intuitive experience. And then finally, when you're ready to buy, We never redirect you. You buy directly in our app, you check out, and you simply go to the game. So we make it really simple, and we want to create a really good experience for you, but as you can see, this guy's in free fall. And that's how I used to feel when I would buy tickets, right? And the really easy way to ruin a good customer experience is by paying too much for your tickets, right? We've all been there. And maybe some of us have actually seen this before, like buying tickets, there's a tangled web of sites you can use to go buy your tickets. You go online, you see all these sites, and there's so much confusion. Like, why do all these sites have tickets? Who are these people? I've never heard of any of them before. And you've got to decide, do I hit all of them to check my prices and see if I can get the best deal on tickets? There are some companies that brand themselves as the kayak of the space. The reality is there's no point in doing that, and I'll tell you why, but it's a dirty secret, and if I'm going to tell you guys, you got to keep it kind of on the down low because it's really, really big. All those tickets and all those sites, they're all the same seats. They're all just sold by different people at different markups. So at the end of the day, you can use any one of the platforms directly, or you can just go to Rukkus, right? And we'll make it really easy because what Rukkus does, and one of the really special things we do, is we take our data. We take so much data from all of this mess of sites, go back, and we give it to the brokers. We help them understand what pricing looks like. And in exchange, we get access to amazing seats at amazing prices. And I'm going to show you. We eliminate the fees. Let me show you how we do it. So New York Islanders, you can go to this game, $15. The next cheapest price on the internet is $20. That's a 20% savings. You can go to the Brooklyn Nets game for $12. The next closest price on the internet is $17. For Wicked, this is a little more expensive. You can get in for $56 instead of $67. And for some of the panelists, as you guys look like you may or may not have children, Disney on Ice is coming up. Good time, good time. $47 on Rukkus. StubHub has that for $56. So come on, let's use Rukkus, guys. Rachel Yamagata, if some of you guys are really into indie, you can go get tickets to see her. She's great for $16 in Rukkus. Ticketmaster seats are for $29. Wow. It's a big price break. And if you wanted to go to the World Series and you really wanted to ball and go all out, we could get you there for $2,500. The next closest price on the internet was $3,200. That's a huge, huge, huge disparity, right? But in order to go to this game, you would have to be a baller. And the reality is not all of us ball. I mean, look, I'm CEO of a startup company, which means I don't have a ton of money. I can't spend $2,500 to go to an event like that. I can't spend $250, right? I like this picture. So we thought of something else, right? We're big data geeks at Rukkus, right? We're super nerdy, you can probably tell. And we stare at data all day, and we discovered something so interesting, and it's remarkable. There's so much volatility in the ticket marketplace. Occasionally, you'll find these shooting stars, these tickets that are lower than all their peers by like 20%, but they're gone. They're gone within like a couple minutes. Someone buys them, right? And the only way you could buy them is if you were compulsively hitting the refresh key on your keyboard looking for these tickets. Well, with Rukkus, we built a price watch tool. So you can watch prices. You can say, look, my favorite seats are going to be $60. I only want to pay $50 because I don't have $60. What we'll do is we'll do the watching for you. And as soon as the price hits $50, we'll buy them for you automatically, right? While you go on doing your own thing, we'll get you the event so you can save a ton of money. Pretty cool, right? So it's not just about getting good prices. You don't want to end up back here, right? When you go to the game, this is a really bad place to sit. Rukkus also is challenging and changing the way that we do seating. So these are my 3 favorite seating charts. I call this one the what is it? When you the fingerprint seating chart, the hot air balloon, and the horseshoe. So we've combined data and design to build our own seating charts, all by hand. We have an architecture studio, really intuitive, really simple, and really effective seating charts that show you right on the map where you're going to sit. I'm running out of time. We have one of the most comprehensive seating chart catalogs on the web. We're second to StubHub, and that's going to change by Q1 of next year. So let's now talk about, I showed you guys the technology, let's talk about the growth. We launched this year in February, and within 10 months of launch, we hit a $1 million run rate. So we've been doing extremely well. Here's some cool stats. Let's keep going. We're in the Apple Store top charts. We've been featured by Apple. We're ranked really highly, and here are our projections. And we're hiring. So if you guys, developers, marketing, please send me an email. We'd love to have you. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. Question from the judges. Ryan?
Love your enthusiasm. And the rocket ship.
You were the Disney on Ice guy, right?
I've been to my share. And that's a low price for that ticket.
I know.
super competitive space with a lot of money and user acquisition cost with very big brands, and you're trying to differentiate against very big brands. What's your user acquisition, and how do you message this? What's that plan?
So, oops. Well, we know what our user acquisition costs. We've done this, and on a paid basis, because our product converts better than any of these other big brands, these overfunded startups. We simply have a better mousetrap, and we're better at the marketing. For 50 cents, I can acquire at scale thousands and thousands of customers, and I generate positive ROI on those acquisitions within 60 days. We're ready to scale, and that's what we're doing next year.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so unfortunately, Willie Litvak of Squad Up was also not able to be here tonight, so we're going to move on to Discourse.
All right, hi, I'm Basil, and this is Discourse. So we think of ourselves as a better way to stay informed. So what that means is we combine news, so current events, what's going on in the world, with expert analysis of that news. So it's not only what's going on, but why does it matter? Should I care? What does this mean to me? We've got a great team. I founded the company a little over 2 months ago. This is my second startup. I'm actually a serial DukeGEN presenter. This is my third time on stage, the first for Discourse. But I grew CoverHound, which is a kayak for insurance company, to about 40 people. We raised a bunch of venture capital from some great investors, and that company is still doing great. I passed the reins along to a fantastic senior management team, and now starting Discourse to kind of scratch my own itch. I'm a Duke 03 from Trinity. I co-founded the company with Akbar, who's here tonight. He's built all the technology that we have. And we're excited to announce that we're just about to bring on David Mark, who will be contributing editor, moving into editor-in-chief to kind of really flesh out the media portion of the team, since we didn't have a lot of strong experience there ourselves, except as avid consumers of it. So let's look at an example. I think here's the problem in news. News is not black and white. There's a lot of subtleties there, and you have a story that comes out, and I go, oh my God, that's terrible. There's 1 in 30 kids who are homeless in the United States. That can't be. We need to do something. And then you start digging into, well, maybe that's true, maybe it's not. The statistics are a little bit misleading, but it's still a huge problem. What from a policy perspective could we do to ameliorate that? How about minimum wage? Even the best journalists, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for journalists, can't fit all of the questions that I might have after reading an article like this and bring in all the different voices that I would want to see in there as well. So Discourse does that in a way that, of course, user comments are completely useless. I think most people would probably agree with that. So if you look at what I would do when I say, okay, well, minimum wage, this has got to be the solution, and you search on Google for that, you've got op-eds from around the web. You've got CNN, Wall Street Journal, Fox News, across the spectrum, and I don't really know, even after spending an entire day trying to figure out, is minimum wage good for poor families? I still don't know the answer to that. So I'm even more lost than I was when I started the process. So our solution is really focusing on breaking news. And instead of hiring a big team of journalists to recreate the wheel, we've partnered with the Associated Press. So that gives us access to 300 very high quality news stories from around the world every single day. And we really look at Discourse as a platform that pulls all that news in and then pushes it out to policy experts, professors, academics, think tanks, interest groups, people who are already spending their entire life trying to solve some of these intractable policy issues, but doing it in a very simple way for them to join the conversation. And what we hope is that means that you've got the news, and now you've got all this analysis, and most importantly, from experts that you trust. So looking at how that actually works, here's a story that we have on Discourse about that same homelessness, and you've got reactions from experts that you're following, as well as more in-depth discussions about how does the federal government set the poverty line? Do they do it appropriately? Have we lost the war on poverty? So kind of a historical perspective. And trying to give somebody who wants an opportunity to dive deeper in some of these issues more color. So we want it to be very personalized and interactive, and that means that you can follow experts. So your DukeGEN professor, if you're interested in his or her perspective on minimum wage, as well as institutions like Duke, and just making sure that your feed is full of Duke professors. You can follow certain discussions and topics that interest you. Maybe you are interested in business, maybe you're not, you're interested in more global stuff, or you're not. You can really personalize your experience there. And then also being able to weigh in on those responses. So if an expert says something that you particularly agree with, hopefully that means you are more likely to share that. And you can kind of endorse that opinion to make sure that our algorithm gets smarter and smarter to present you with more opinions that are similar to that we think you're going to appreciate. So with that, the result of that, we kind of call it Goldilocks effect. It's not too hot, it's not too cold from an opinion perspective. So if you're in favor of confiscation of all the guns in the United States, an opinion from Ted Nugent about gun control is probably not something that you really want to expose yourself to. That's fine. We can kind of validate both what you already believe as well as trying to be a little bit more provocative about giving you an expert who maybe you don't totally agree with, but you'd be interested in reading an opinion from him or her that can further the experience. So how we make money, you kind of look at it as a three-legged stool. We do want to have the users pay for the value that they're accruing from this, as well as the experts, and of course, on a native ad basis. And just a very quick example of what that could look like, a book publisher sponsors a discussion, and they pay us for that. We're raising $1 million, and we'd love to talk to you. Sign up for our beta. We're going live soon.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you so much. Question from the judges?
Yeah, sure. So I'll ask on this one. So, how are you today, and how do you expect to bring the experts in particular into the network, and how do you expect to drive them to post and continue to contribute meaningfully?
Yeah, so we look at it kind of a top-down as well as bottoms-up. So we've had an opportunity to speak to David Jarmel, who's the head of news and communications at Duke. It's actually impressive that the vast majority of a lot of these institutions have full-time staff who are really dedicated to getting their experts to join the conversation. That might mean being a talking head on CNN or being quoted in The Economist. So we can leverage a lot of the infrastructure that already exists, as well as just making it a very easy interactivity. So very similar to an aardvark of old or Quora now, where if we add a news story that's relevant to you, we can push that out. And finally, a part of what David's going to be building in the near term to kind of cross from having no experts to lots of them is just a tactical team of interviewers who can actually just call out and say, this is happening, it's important, will you, do you want to join? And that almost turns interviewers into salesmen for us to build awareness for that product.
Thank you. Okay, the next team we have presenting, we have Mark from Shopography.
Hello, my name is Mark Zurada. I'm the founder and CEO of Shopography, a social shopping platform that allows people to share what they shop and get socially based product recommendations. I'd like to start off the pitch by asking a question about what the future of retail is going to look like in 10 years. We think that data is going to be powering almost every part of that innovation. So ads that are more aware of its viewers' past shopping habits, iBeacons obviously, with proximity insight being a perfect example, being aware of past shopping habits, and retailers having insight into exactly what's happening in the stream of commerce, so what's selling around them nationally and what's trending. So where's that data going to come from? We think that it's going to come from social shopping. Social shopping is basically just the activity of taking conversations that happen in an everyday world between your friends, family, at the backyard barbecue, taking them online and leveraging that data. So we're basically trying to unsilo the information, empower the consumer, and empower retailers. So Shopography makes shopping what it should be. We leverage powerful retail technology and social media to create an omni-channel word-of-mouth shopping experience. In Shopography's world, people share what they shop and are rewarded with socially based product recommendations and discounts. The result of our innovation is a better experience, a better shopping experience for the consumer, and more conversions, increased loyalty, and higher average order values for the retailer. So how do we do that? Actually, I'll go back. So some interesting statistics. 75% of what people watch on Netflix is actually currently powered by recommendations. And we found that statistic to be very interesting because people's taste in movies is just as subjective as people's taste in products. And if Netflix is able to achieve 75% success with their recommendations, we believe that we can achieve the same with product recommendations. So how do we do that? By mapping out the interconnectedness between brands, products, retailers, and people. That map is exactly what lives in the Shopography data cloud. And shoppers interact with our various endpoints, such as mobile apps, websites, plugins. That information enters the Shopography data cloud and is then available through social media. And we use it to aggregate and predict trends, do product recommendations, deliver ads, all that. So the secret sauce to our business is that we leverage the barcode, which is a 50-year-old technology, but we're reinventing it for the purposes of social shopping. The real power behind that is that we can instantly detect what brand a product is, what type of product it is, whether it's a TV or a shoe, whether it's a Sony or a Dell. And that's really important information. And in much the same way that Twitter uses a hashtag to organize and track their discussions, we use the UPC in the same way to track and organize our content. So we can be very efficient and successful in our product recommendations and our trend predictions. So right now we have a fully developed social network platform, mobile apps, e-commerce plugins. We have a patent that's granted on a UPC-based social network. We've raised $100,000, and we have 4 products right now. So 3 are B2C, 1 is B2B. This is what our website looks like. People come here to share what they shop, interact with their friends. These are our mobile apps. People can share products that they find from brick and mortar stores and share them online. This is our browser plugin. People can share from any e-commerce store online. And this is what our e-commerce integration looks like. So this can, with a few lines of code, make an e-commerce site instantly more social. And that's proven to be very nice for e-commerce retailers. We have a 4-tier plan. So right now we have our core tech, and we're going to be entering into the B2B space, which is then going to be followed by the B2C offering. And finally, if we're lucky enough, we'll achieve the big data kind of disruption plan. So a question that we get asked all the time is, how do we gain traction? It's a very competitive social landscape. So we come up with a negative user acquisition cost model. So we go after retailers. It's a very targeted, addressable market. We gain subscription revenue, and we flip their shoppers into our users. And then that's what the revenue looks like for that. And then we take those users that we get and generate more users and generate affiliate revenue out of that. So right now I've invested 210 of my own money. We've raised 100. We're looking for 850 more.
Awesome. Thanks, Mark.
Or can you talk a little more about the customer acquisition piece, converting shoppers into users?
Yeah, sure. So we have a product that we sell to e-commerce retailers, and we basically have an economic incentive to sharing. So it's basically if I share a product and refer a friend to that store, then both people get a discount. So it's a win-win for everybody. The retailer gets a new customer, the shoppers win because they get discounts, and we win because we get subscription revenue. And we also are able to leverage our partner retailers' customer base to market towards at their expense as well.
And I'll have it on the partner retailer site, or?
Yeah, exactly. It's a pretty simple integration. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay, our next team we have presenting TowerView Health.
My name is Nick Valilis, Trinity class of 2012, and I'm a co-founder of TowerView Health. TowerView Health helps chronically ill patients manage their medication. So this first picture was taken in May of 2012, just a few days before I graduated from college. I still remember, we showed this picture because I still remember how happy I was on that day, graduating from Duke, surrounded by my best friends, and I was heading off to medical school. The second picture was taken just 3 months later. So during my first week of medical school, I was actually diagnosed with a rare form of leukemia. I spent the next month in the hospital undergoing a series of treatments that I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. When my treatments were finally over, I was told to expect what cancer patients referred to as the new normal. Little did I know that the new normal looks something like this. 10 orange medication vials, 7 of which I'm still taking nearly 2 years later, each with its own refill and dosing schedule. Despite every advantage, a strong understanding of my medication, and the support of my father, who ironically is a cancer specialist, I struggled on nearly a daily basis to take my meds. Multiple refills, complex medication schedules. It was simply overwhelming. I quickly realized that I wasn't the only one struggling. 1 in 3 Americans suffer from chronic illnesses that require multiple medications. And nearly 50% of patients don't take their medication as directed, resulting in nearly $100 billion in avoidable costs. The numbers were so staggering to us that we could hardly believe them. So we took a look at an average size insurance company. 4 chronic diseases alone cost them over $3 billion in avoidable costs, just because patients aren't taking their meds. Such an enormous problem is bound to attract solutions, and we actually found many, just not ones that are serving the needs of chronically ill patients. So mobile apps are a quick and scalable solution, but at the end of the day, they're just reminders. Patients still need to organize their meds. And after using an app, I quickly began abusing the dismiss button. Over 1,000 missed reminders later, I can't really say that this app really helped me take my meds. Smart pill bottles are probably an improvement, but how many expensive pill bottles do patients need to juggle on a daily basis? The answer is too many. Finally, medication dispensers are probably the best solution out there for chronically ill patients. But very few patients are willing to take the 30 minutes per week to load their device. Worse, who's to say that that device has actually been loaded correctly? None of these solutions are designed with the patient's convenience in mind. At TowerView Health, we've seen the failures of our competitors, and we've improved on their shortcomings. Patients using our service receive a pre-filled medication tray from a pharmacy. That tray inserts into a connected pill box like a K-cup fits into a Keurig coffee machine. Our pill box senses when patients miss medication doses and sends automated text message or phone reminders to patients and their loved ones. For patients who prefer not to receive automated text message and phone reminders, our box comes equipped with visual and audio reminders as well. Finally, we partner with nurses at hospitals and insurance companies. Using our dashboard, they're able to reach out to patients who are continuously non-adherent. So how exactly does this work? So a pharmacist fills a pre-filled medication tray and ships it to the patient. The patient receives the tray in the mail and inserts it into our connected pill box. The pill box senses when a patient misses a dose and sends a reminder. That notification eventually escalates to a loved one or a nurse. So under the Affordable Care Act, hospitals and insurance companies have a significant financial incentive to increase reimbursement tied to improved quality scores and to reduce medical costs. Because hospitals and insurance companies are willing to pay for our service, patients get it for free. We're college roommates turned company co-founders, and with backgrounds in strategy consulting, computer science, electrical engineering, and medicine, we have the diverse skills necessary to deliver on our vision. We're pleased to announce an agreement with Independence Blue Cross and Penn Medicine for a 200-patient paid rollout. The data from this rollout should pave the way for additional engagements with Independence Blue Cross and with health plans across the country. We're also in advanced pilot discussions with some of the biggest names in healthcare: Kaiser Permanente, Sentara Health, Harvard, Emory, Geisinger, and Texas Children's. We're currently raising seed capital to grow our team and scale our product. If what I spoke about today sounds exciting to you, I'd love to talk to you after this presentation. This year actually marks the 2-year anniversary of my cancer remission and coincides with the launch of our product at Penn. I can't think of a better way to celebrate my cancer survivorship than getting our product into patients' hands. Thank you.
Nick, thank you for your story, and it's good to see you healthy.
Thank you.
A couple of questions. The first is, if your medications are not on the same refill cycle, how does that coordination work when you ultimately receive them? And the second one is, what is the incentive for a pharmacy to take the time to individually fill these boxes?
Sure. So initially, we'll be doing this manually, and our partners have shown an interest in doing this for their high-risk segments. We've also identified vendors that can fill the trays automatically. So we'll be purchasing equipment to do that. In order to do this at scale, you have to have a pretty good pharmacy partner. We're currently in discussions with a national mail order chain that can service 48 states, and they're pursuing licenses in the other 2. Your first point, I'm sorry, I lost track of your first question.
The first question is, if your medications are not on the same refill cycle,
Sure.
would you be receiving multiple shipments of different boxes? What if you're on a 30-day cycle for one prescription and a 2-month cycle on another prescription? How do those get combined?
That's the big problem right now with orange medication vials. And so what we're going to do is we're going to align your medication schedule. It's already being done. There's other companies that do it for different types of packaging. So we align your medication schedule so from then on forward, everything goes into the tray. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thanks, Nick. And then we have our last team presenting, Medicare Pathfinder. We have Scott Cadora.
So thank you. I'm Scott Cadora from Medicare Pathfinder. So what do? We improve the digital marketing of Medicare products. So that's primarily going to be Medicare Advantage, Medicare supplement plans, and Part D prescription plans. Huge part of the Medicare ecosystem. So currently, there are a lot of problems with Medicare. If you're a senior, you're on 65, you have to go on Medicare. It's confusing. It's an overwhelming number of choices. It's an overwhelming number of combinations. It's difficult to compare plans, and it's hard to optimize your coverage. It's hard to figure out what's the best plan for me. For the insurers, they've got another problem. They've got high acquisition costs. It costs them a lot to get somebody onto their plans. In many cases, they'll have to have somebody for over a year before they actually break even. They have very high regulatory burdens to deal with from Medicare, and they have very difficult communications of how do they market to seniors. Here's the bigger problem. Baby boomers are now starting to turn 65. Over the next 15 years, Medicare enrollment is going to raise by 62%. It's going to go from 17% of the population to 24%. So it may not be for you, but certainly your parents are going to be on Medicare. And now all of a sudden it's going to be your problem. So everybody's trying to figure out, how do we deal with baby boomers? We already know they reject the status quo. They don't shop like everybody else. They're not going to accept substandard performance. They want Medicare, they want health care their way. They're going to change more rapidly than their previous generation did. They're more tech savvy, and they're going to want a better experience. For the insurers, they know this is coming. They're struggling to figure out how they deal with this. In addition to that, you have additional changes from Obamacare, the American Affordable Care Act. That's capped their top line revenue. So they can only make more profit for a company, for an individual, either by lowering their acquisition cost or extending the period of time that they're going to do. But it's across purposes since they know the baby boomers are going to switch. So you got this very vicious cycle of plans are changing, the consumers are changing, they've got these restrictions, they've got lower revenues, they've got higher cost. How do they deal with that? Our solution is to match seniors with the right plan, help them to optimize their Medicare plan, help them to find the best plan for them, the highest coverage at the lowest cost, then match them with those insurance companies that are the best fit for them. For the insurers, we give them better qualified leads, we give them better analytics, and we help them to close that sales ratio gap. Here's how it works. So in this zip code, 110, there are currently 1,784 plan combinations. There's no way you can go through and figure that out. We're developing an algorithm that actually does. It doesn't only breaks down the silos between the different plans and helps you to visualize in an intuitive way, here's the best plan for your individual needs. A big thing for the seniors is control. They don't want to feel like they're out of control. So it allows them to say, you want to be contacted by this insurance company in this manner. Once that's done, we pass on the very qualified lead to the insurer. They receive it. They can discern it to the retail agent who's going to actually go out, meet with that senior. They understand what those hot button issues are for that individual senior. And then at a high level, we give them the better analytics as to where the market is going. They don't currently have that insight right now. So the senior receives a better plan. The insurer receives the type of senior that's going to be there for a long term. Our business model, we have 3 different revenue sources. One is revenue from lead gen. The second is individualized analytics, which is going to be a premium on the lead gen, and then market analytics to help them get better insights both to develop their plans and to strategize their media buys. That's the majority of their advertising is through direct mail and through media buys, primarily broadcast media. Our target market, there are currently 56 million seniors in Medicare this year. We can't service all those. They're not all of our clients. We're aiming for the 13.7 million that are both online and are actively shopping. We know what they look like. We know who they are. They represent currently $382 million in lead gen revenue that we anticipate. For the insurers, or for the insurance groups, we're primarily targeting regional insurers and then going to the national insurers, the field marketing offices, which are the distributors for insurance, and then sometimes the retail agents. Over the next couple of years, the lead gen is going to run from 539 to 950. We've got a great team. We're at ATDC at Georgia Tech, which is their incubator. Thanks for your time.
So great targeting because there's a lot of opportunity there, but the biggest challenge as I see it is how are you going to build trust? You're building a community, you've narrowed it down to 13 million, but why am I going to believe in you and your company versus probably a lot of other options I have versus people that are maybe 10 years older that are giving me insights as to where I should go?
Sure, and it's a great question. The best way that we see to answer that is to give people the broadest spectrum. It's one of the big issues that's been in the marketplace so far is people have been able to produce leads, but they're very targeted and people don't trust it. It's one of the reasons people have concerns about AARP is because people really quickly see that AARP is just the marketing arm for United Health Insurance. So what we want to do is say, hey, we're agnostic to the plan for the seniors. You can see every combination. And then to leverage their ability to see everything and choose on their own terms. To us, that seems like the most reasonable approach to it. Any other questions? That answer?
So much. Yeah, sorry. One question per. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Let's give Scott a hand. Okay, great. So we've got a few things going on here and some fun things for the audience to participate in. So first of all, the panelists are going to go with Alex and Marie Angela out there to decide. We're going to give you about 10 minutes or so, and you guys will decide. The winner is going to get a $500 prize and some connections. So you here in the audience, we're going to now ask you to vote for your favorite. So pull out your cell phones right now. You mind pulling up the screen there? Okay, and just while people are finishing up their votes, I'll give you a preview as to what's about to happen. So there's a couple fun things that are about to happen. One is we're going to pull up all the teams on stage here. So all of the teams will stand on stage, and we're just going to do audience Q&A. So any member of the audience can ask any member of any member that presented tonight here to answer a question. After that runs its course, and assuming the judges aren't back with their decision, we're also going to do an open mic. So we've done this at a number of our events. So, and I do see some friends here. So Reed Lewis, Catherine Kane in the back there. Other people that are starting companies or in startups, you're welcome to come up and introduce yourself. If there's a need that you have from the audience, you're welcome to ask the audience. And the second thing is that if there are people here that are looking to transition, you're looking for a job, you're looking for advice, things like that, you're also welcome to come up here and introduce yourself. Again, it's just a great way for you to kind of meet other people. And we have found that people have made great connections from this open mic process. So with that being said, let's just see a show of hands. Anybody need more time to vote? No? Okay, can you blank the screen, Brian? I'm going to pull up the results. Okay, so I'm looking at the results. The winning team with 41 votes is TowerView Health. Congratulations. Second place team with 23 votes is Rukkus. Okay, can you put us back? All right, so let's bring up everybody that presented tonight. And while we do that, let's give everyone a round of applause. It takes courage to come on stage and put yourself out there. I think everybody did a great job. So what I'm going to do is, if anybody asks a question, if you are answering it, please repeat the question for everyone else in the audience and also for the video. So any questions from the audience? Yes, right there.
Nick, in terms of the box that's going to arrive with all your pills, how does it take into account, I assume you're getting like a month's worth of pills, how does it take into account the pills you have to take at different times of the day, sometimes 4 or 5 times during the day?
That's a great question, yeah. So you actually keep the box. The box is...
The question, Nick?
Oh yeah, the question was, how do you deal with the fact that patients take medication multiple times a day? So that's why we kind of give that diagram, because some people get lost. You keep the box, and that you keep reusing that. What we send you is 4 to 5 medication trays that have your medication already separated out for you. So that's morning doses all together, afternoon and nightly doses. So you don't have to worry anymore. You don't have to separate them out, and you as a caregiver can know that your loved one is taking the medications at the appropriate time. And our box senses when medications are removed and reminds you when that right time is to take your medication.
So the tray may only be for 1 week at a time. You make it 4 trays.
It's a weekly tray. Yeah, it's a weekly tray that you use and then dispose of.
Other questions? We'll take a few more. Yes, I got 2 here. Alon, we'll go with you first.
Thank you. First of all, that's a great presentation, and I wanted to ask how you travel with this tray. Like, it's great when you sit at home, but when you move from place to place.
So we opted to go with cellular technology embedded in it, so it'll work anywhere there's Verizon coverage. And if you lose coverage, we have data storage on the box, up to 2 months worth of data, so none of that gets lost. It's not the perfectly portable solution, we'll be the first to tell you, but patients do travel with pill boxes, and this is about the same size as a traditional pill box.
Thank you. We've got another question right here.
Follow up on that. In my personal experience with this, the issue is coordination of the specialist. So we have multiple specialists treating customer without coordinated care, assigning multiple medications with overlapping prescriptions. How do you solve that problem?
That is the holy grail, and that is the service side of our business. So right now it's about getting traction with integrated payer providers primarily, who are able to really take ownership of the medication reconciliation. The next phase is using pharmacists on our end, providing a complete medication review for additional charge to plans and hospitals to make sure that what goes in the tray is the truth, not just what the patient or one specialist thinks.
Very good. Yes, right here in the front. Oh, and then Megan will do that one next.
Great. I have 2 questions, one for Rukkus and then one for Shopify. For Rukkus, you mentioned that you get a discounted cost, for example, $15 versus $18 for a ticket. How do you, 1, negotiate that with the ticket providers, the artists, and then 2, what prevents another company like SeatGeek or one of your other competitors from getting those sort of discount rates and making those available to customers?
So the one really unique thing about about the way that we play in the space is that we work with both sides. So we interface with the consumers, and we interface with the actual wholesale providers. There aren't many players that do that. In fact, SeatGeek does not do that. So that's one thing that we're able to do that they can't do. The thing that really is challenging is taking all of this data and information and actually normalizing it and analyzing it and coming up with a really interesting kind of a projection model, data, historical analysis, right? We give that data that we use ourselves to run our business, to run our ads, we give that data back to these individuals. So it's a tool that we built, it's very specialized, and because of the nature of our relationship with them and how specialized the software is, I mean, I worked at Goldman, this is like my bread and butter, I gave them this data, and in exchange they give us back these additional discounts, and they're usually like 10 to 20%. So.
Wonderful, thanks. For Shopify, you mentioned that sort of...
I'll take Shopify.
Shopography. You mentioned that
get it all the
part of
time.
your... Sorry, go ahead.
I said I get it all the time.
Got it, So you mentioned part of your onboarding process or part of your customer acquisition strategy is to first partner with retailers and then onboard their existing customers. How does that process work? So I'm a retailer, I sign you on. I say I want to use sort of your services to augment my marketing strategy. Then what?
Right. So that's basically it. So there's a couple different types of integrations. There's a couple free ones, there's a couple paid ones. And it integrates onto product pages. You can embed feeds of like what's trending on your site, so it's more of a social way to shop rather than by category. And anytime anybody shares products from the feed or from the product page, it goes to Shopography, Facebook, and Twitter. And if you have one of the paid subscriptions, then you can offer economic incentives to those shares. So, you know, refer a friend and get $5 off and that type of stuff. All sorts of different types of promotions that you can run.
Thank you. Megan.
Hi, this is a question for Rukkus. You mentioned these shooting star prices that may only be available for a few minutes and then are purchased. I was wondering if a customer is trying to buy in that mode, and I'm also not clear if they have the option of buying that way or just buying a normal ticket price, but if they do have that option and they are buying in that mode, is there the potential to miss out on the ticket entirely, and how do you deal with that with the client? And also, as the platform gets more popular, doesn't that cannibalize those sales in general? Because you said they could be purchased very quickly, they're gone, so maybe a small 0.1% of people on Rukkus can buy that way, and the other 99.9 are missing out. Is that a potential problem?
Thank you for the question. It's a good question. So that's actually not, so the platform doesn't require you to buy that way. You can buy immediately and just purchase your tickets and get good deals. Or if you'd like to, you can hang on and you can do the price alert. So it's a dichotomy. You can do what you want. If you do choose to opt for the price alert, what we're seeing is that actually, you know, it's not really a 99 and 1% thing. I mean, people are looking for tickets to a myriad of events, right? There's so many things that are happening. So you don't typically find that people are cannibalizing those extremely really good deals, right? Remember that there's a multitude of price ranges to go to any of these really big events. You could pay $50, 100, 150, 200, right? There are different seating tiers. So occasionally we have seen, as people have been placing these orders, we've seen two people shooting at the same exact deal. It doesn't happen often because remember that these things are very ephemeral. They are gone and after maybe 5 or 10 minutes. So the interesting thing is that as one is lost, another one is created. So there's a lot of flux. Does that answer your question?
Here, and then we got one here. Go ahead. Yep.
So this is a question for Medicare Pathfinder. So in my experience, companies often create products, but then have a challenge is in selling enough of them. How are you going to deal with that?
Great question. We're wrestling with that right now. Our focus right now is to use a regional aspect, and there's two reasons for that. Number one, because a lot of the insurers that we want to target are regional based. They only serve certain geographic areas. And we can also focus in on selling to the individual seniors in that area. Several other companies have done very well with that. Uber, TaskRabbit, Airbnb have all used that strategy, especially during the rollout phase. So we're going to be refining this. We know we're not quite ready for prime time, but this enables us to be able to get in, target at a much more micro level, and then ensure that we're refining ourselves so that when we do go into larger and larger markets, we'll do so in a better fashion.
Last question right here.
My question is for Discourse. If I use your service, how do I ensure that my focus doesn't become too narrow? The news I value most are the things I don't already know about. So do you have an algorithm that, I don't care about gossip, but I do care about things that I don't already know. How does that work?
Yeah, absolutely. So we want to avoid what some will term kind of that filter bubble of just kind of falling into just hearing the things that you know or that the site knows that you want. So I think that's where the algorithm really tries to skate that line towards giving you what you want, but also being provocative enough to say, well, here's other opinions that you might not agree with, and presenting you with those. So I think that the focus of our personalization is much more around the breadth of opinion that you get versus the actual news stories that you see. So we give you the opportunity to personalize both of those things and really try to help you stay out of that getting painted into a corner as a result of it.
Very good. Thank you so much. Let's give them a hand. So Reed, can I call you up to the stage here? And also, this is the open mic portion. So if anybody wants to come up and say hello, particularly those of you working in startups, Catherine, Kane, I'm looking your way. I don't know if you'd be willing to come up and say a quick hello. I will pull up the website. Yes, okay. So before we do that, and by the way, this period here might be 30 seconds, it might be 5 minutes, it just depends on how quickly the judges come back. I just want to give special recognition to Reed Lewis. Here's a microphone. Reed is my co-founder and co-chair of the Duke Global Entrepreneurship Network. His startup, yes, let's give him a hand, thank you. I'm going to say a little bit more. He lives in DC, but he trained up just for this event, and he comes to almost all of our events. And he has had some success of his own in the startup world. His company was sold for $100 million a couple years ago, and he just joined. You can't brag for yourself, so I'm bragging for you. He just switched over to another startup. Reed, I'll give the floor to you. Anything you want to say?
Well, I'm just smiling here because in 2008, when we started DukeGEN, we wanted to help entrepreneurs. And to come in a little late to this event, thanks to Amtrak, and see it rolling and see the impressive presenters today, and the impressive panel, I'm like, wow, we're helping entrepreneurs. So well done to you and all the people I know that work so hard to make this happen.
Yes. Awesome. And do you mind, in the spirit of people introducing themselves, since you just switched to another company, do you mind just saying a little bit about that?
Sure. I'll say a couple of things. So we started a company, a software company in 1988. So many of you were still in school in 1988. And we ran it for a long time, and we did, by my count, 12 pivots. Okay, so we reinvented ourselves a lot. We had patient investors, and they eventually got 8 times their money. Okay, so here I am, having run this company for all this time, sold it. I was working for the acquirer, helping them integrate it, and I was confronted with what to do next. So Basil seems to have figured this out, because he's gone from one to the other just like that. But it took me a while, 2 years, to decide what to do. And in the end, I decided to join a company that I was mentoring. So if many of you are mentors, how many of you are mentoring 2 companies now? Oh, you should be doing that, because it's a great way to give back and to learn a lot about your own skills and experience. So I joined a company that I was mentoring called Two Canoes Labs, and we're a proximity infrastructure solutions company. Lots of words. We make iBeacons, and we make solutions around those beacons. So if you have questions about iBeacons, ask me. If you need some iBeacons, you can buy ours on Amazon for $40.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you.
And yes, we will be raising money soon.
Wonderful. I'm going to pull up Catherine Kane's website. So Catherine is a recent alum.
So let me start with a show of hands. How many of you are planning to give a gift this holiday season? Excellent. Well, let me introduce you to K-Kane. K-Kane is a custom jewelry company that I founded when I was at Fuqua. I graduated in 2012, and I really developed the company in the program for entrepreneurs. So I think I have maybe no teammates here, but certainly some customers and classmates who have been incredibly helpful. And I'm always happy to have an opportunity to introduce the company to more Duke grads. So basically, K-Kane specializes in a very unique custom take on personalized jewelry. My first products were monograms. I started with, let's see, a necklace like this. And what makes my monograms unique is that they're all designed by hand. I'm not pulling from a computer-generated font, so they tend to be a little bit more sophisticated and quite different looking than these monogram necklaces that are sort of all over the market right now and doing really well. And since graduating from Duke, I've been picked up by Neiman Marcus, and I'm also available at Fred Siegel in LA and Santa Monica, along with a number of other sort of high-end boutiques around the country. And then my new collection is called Graffiti, and what makes Graffiti unique is that you can actually customize the pieces with any words that you want to say, but in any handwriting. So it's really an interesting collection because kind of on a daily basis, I'm sort of spanning the entire spectrum of human emotion. I have people who are engraving jewelry with notes and handwriting from loved ones who have passed away, and then I have people who are using their small children's handwriting, pieces from school projects, and their kids' names and their kids' handwriting. So there's kind of a lot of different options within the line, but again, I'm trying to stay really focused along this angle of a sort of very unique custom take on personalization. So if that appeals to you at all, come find me afterwards, and I'd love to tell you more about it, or check me out online.
Fantastic.
Or at Eman's.
Thank you so much, Catherine. Thanks for letting me put you on the spot there. Okay, so we're going to get into panelist feedback here. I'm going to actually call all of the presenters to come back on stage to get your feedback. But before we do that, I just want to say one thing. So we purposely put all of the presenters' email addresses in your programs. And the reason for that is, again, with the mantra that DukeGEN is about productive connections. And so I believe that each of you has at least one connection for one of the presenters tonight. And I would highly encourage you to take the time right now to email somebody with an idea, some feedback, a connection, something just to help kind of further along the kind of momentum and the velocity of connections that we have here. So I definitely encourage you to do that. So with that, we're going to have the panelists give feedback. Do you mind? I don't know. They're going to all come up here. So why don't you guys come up here? And then they're standing, so maybe you guys should stand too. I don't know, whatever you want to do here. And I'll give you this mic, and you guys take it away.
I got it. Should we all stand, or should this person stand?
Whatever you want to do. Whatever you want to do. You know, maybe, yeah. Yeah, what's the score, Matt? There you go.
Yeah, that's a better idea. All right, so I'm going to talk about Shopography. Awesome. So good job on the presentation. I think the judges here at least totally agree that the future of commerce is around social and kind of sharing. I think two pieces of potential feedback for you that could be helpful. One is it would have been helpful for us if you spent more time talking about kind of customer acquisition through the retailer channel. It kind of came out a little bit in the question, but felt like there was a lot of questions on our side at least around how that scales over time. And then secondly, I would maybe encourage you for future presentations to maybe liven things up a little bit, just as far as the presentation style goes and kind of getting the group energized around what you're building, because what you're building is really exciting, and kind of sharing that enthusiasm that you feel for the product with the group could be helpful in the future.
Great. So I'm going to be talking about the Pathfinder? Medicare Pathfinders. And the question I had asked was about trust, but also I was getting into the scalability and how you're going to basically acquire your customers. And you're taking a route that's, you know, to start with, you made a comment about how savvy this audience was and how confused the offerings were. So you're coming into this with a real great challenge because there's a huge problem. And you're taking a first cut from the marketing perspective. You're sort of providing a way to market this material to them in an easier way. And that's going to mean that you're going to have to really build their trust very quickly or be able to get through all this minutia that you have. And so the real question I had was, well, you know, how are you going to build that trust? How are you going to build that community? And 13 million is still a huge, huge audience. You know, how are you going to start to penetrate that? If I take a look at, you know, the market, you're going to have a lot of information out there, especially as boomers are going online. They're doing their Yelp checks, so to speak, and all that type of stuff. So how do you stand out? And how do you basically scale from that situation? And how do you get your customers? And how much is it going to cost you? And so from my perspective, what I would suggest is to really focus down on giving me an example of how you're going to win. Because right now, I don't really get a sense. I see yourself going after a huge, huge market without giving me any confidence at all that you're going to win. So if you can give me some sense of a trial area you've gone after, something you've done already, something that's really worked for you, you're investing a lot of your time. So I want to know what gives you the confidence to wake up tomorrow morning and do this, and try to parlay that a little more into your presentation.
So some feedback on Rukkus. First of all, I'm interested in the space, having been an investor in SeatGeek and know the market fairly well. I sort of worked back from the end of the presentation, which was, well, it was very interesting to see that you've actually developed some traction. The revenue seems to be growing. I think one of the big questions I sort of was left with was, how defensible are your advantages? And just kind of understanding what is it. There were a couple of points you made very quickly in the presentation which I couldn't quite follow in terms of sort of, were you getting a special price break because of the broker relationship, or was there something else going on with the price, the way you sort of, you track prices? But again, just understanding the points of differentiation and defensibility over time. Is there sort of a network effect built into your business that I'm not aware of, or that we're not aware of? So just understanding that a little bit better. And then I guess one other area which I think is all on the minds of anybody in the ticketing business is just mobile. As customer acquisition and ticket purchasing and customer behavior moves to mobile. Just a little bit more on that, and sort of how you see that changing your business and how you'll be positioned to compete in that context. But again, it was great. I thought particularly it would have been nice to, I think, lead in some respects with just sort of how much traction you have earlier on. I think that was impressive, and a number of folks mentioned that in the conversation. So thanks.
So you're getting 2 judges for the price of 1.
It's probably not good for you. Doesn't add extra value.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Discourse, which I think first and foremost, just the ethos of it is awesome. There's certainly a need for that sort of product, and I think folks are definitely looking for ways to cut through a lot of the sort of noise in news and look for something that's a little more focused. We had a lot of questions around product. Mobile, I think, is one of the key ones for us as well, because it's not just about designing a product that allows you to consume news in a smaller screen, but actually thinking about how that news is presented, whether you're presenting the exact same format, an abbreviated version, et cetera. So a little more detail around that would have been great.
I would also encourage you to think about, you're going against significant brands with significant audiences who are in the business of being instantaneous. And that alone at your size is tough to compete with. So where is your advantage? And I think the 2 pieces that I was thinking about is, one, I would start and live almost entirely as a native app. And the reason is you get engagement hooks, right? You're not going to be the first to a story. That's not actually your value add in any way. It's following and educating along the path of it. Well, as a native app, I can subscribe to a topic, and no longer do I expect you to be first versus CNN or The Times or me or anyone else. So I think that's an interesting hook. The second one is, how do you turn this into, and I agree on user comments and so forth, but you have to leverage users and community to drive virality and therefore your customer acquisition. Because you're in this really funky, interesting concept of you want a tight niche audience, in some cases paid, but you need to figure out how they are your traffic acquisition mechanism in a space that is very difficult to go buy traffic for. So how do you use community, maybe not to generate the content, but to drive the value? And there's some interesting folks doing stuff like this, Circa, et cetera. I would really focus on mobile.
Hi, I came a little late, but I did hear everything. I'm Lawrence Lenahan from First Smart Capital. Stephen, great presentation. It's always great to see customer testimonials. I spent an enormous amount of time in the retail space, and got a lot of random, probably bizarre theories about it. So let me give you some of them. I think the good news is that you're targeting an area that is
absolutely untouched by existing solutions. And when you look at CRM in the store, there isn't a solution. People try to use Salesforce. People use contact books. People use mostly paper, especially when you get high end and when you talked about the luxury space. There's nothing that ties into the web. There's no single unified view of the customer. Location is this nirvana that retailers want to go to. But getting there is really, really hard. And when I look at your solution, you've got a lot of features, or I should say look at your presentation, you've got a lot of features and you don't really have a more cohesive solution. Having sets of APIs that rest upon other things that aren't working doesn't work. If you're going to go after this, you actually have to go after this. I do believe you have to go after it from the CRM, and you have to take a look at it where it is both, CRM in store as well as at the host. Location is hard because you can't get people to activate a beacon. You have to have an app. And even Macy's with a gigantic app install base can't get this working. We've got a lot of, it's interesting. We were at a discussion in our partnership meeting yesterday. We liken iBeacons to RFID. And so 10 years ago, RFID was going to be the biggest thing since sliced bread, and a bunch of companies went into RFID and they all got wiped out. Guess what? RFID is now the biggest thing since sliced bread. I mean, it's everywhere. It's wherever you go, and the technology is really, really pervasive, not maybe necessarily in the format that they hoped it would be. So iBeacons will be here, location-based things will be here, but it may be well after you've run out a lot of cash. So right space, right focus, you need to rejigger the parts and think about how to build this into something that really addresses the needs today, and then they can grow into that kind of holistic view of the customer.
The winner is TowerView Health. Congratulations, Nick. So there was a clear consensus that you were the winner. Let's just start with the presentation. I think one of the judges made the comment that you had gone through an accelerator in Philadelphia, Dream It Health, and it showed because your presentation was concise, it was persuasive, it was clear, and everyone was impressed with that. But more importantly, everyone had the sense that you're attacking a real problem and can build a real business. In the digital health sector, where I spend a lot of time, there's a couple of problems that have never been solved. One of them on the life sciences side is you can never get enough patients into clinical trials, and many businesses have come into started businesses, raised capital to try to solve their problem, and they've never been able to do it. Medication adherence is one of the other big ones. Getting chronically ill patients to take their drugs is a hard thing to do. No one's really solved it. So you're attacking a big market. There's real dollars at stake, and you made a very good case that you could solve it. Now, where I would give you feedback is that I think that the judges also felt, hey, we're giving you the benefit of the doubt, but there's a lot of friction in your business. You got hardware. You got to get giant health insurers to join up with you. You got to get potentially a pharmacy partner. It's not an easy business to execute. And so it's hard to do in a short presentation, but I think maybe preempting those questions and presenting a silver bullet or two that is at your disposal to get the dominoes to fall would be helpful in closing the deal, but we were very impressed. Thank you.
Fantastic. We're going to take a photo of Nick and all of the judges here. While we're doing that, while you guys come over here, yep, stand over here, we're also going to announce where the after party is. The after party, it's at Live Bait.
Okay. It's at a bar, Live Bait, which is at 14 East 23rd. So it's 1 block away, so even though it's really cold.
14 East 23rd. And Alex, what time are we going to be kicked out of here for networking? 15, 20 minutes. So, okay, we're going to take a picture. You guys are welcome to stay here 15, 20 minutes. Then we're going to migrate over to the event. Let's give one more round of applause for all of our panelists, all of our presenters, everybody that helped organize. Thank you so much.